Hello, hello, friends. I wasn't planning on filming a video today, but my nephew, Kyan, happened to be out in the garden with me. He's visiting from Virginia. They came, my whole family arrived yesterday. And so I was out this morning weeding. We're gonna talk about that. And Kyan was out here and I was like, you know what? I have some plants. Do you feel like filming? And Kyan happened to say yes. Now, I don't have gloves that necessarily fit him, but you put these on, bud. And what we're gonna do is plant a few more plants right behind me as you see. So if you remember, this spring I planted 18 new trees, Emerald City tulip trees. They're a cross between a tulip and a sycamore tree. And what's great about this area is it's filling in so fast. So if you remember, you've been on a journey with me this year. I planted lots of plugs in the spring in small plants. And the plugs are all that purple nepeta you see behind me, the Summer Magic nepeta. It's growing so fast. Kyan was actually out here helping me weed. So for those of you that don't think I need to weed a lot, I do. So the big thing with a new bed, even though it's mulched with about 2 inches at least of mulch, you get weeds. And we've had a beautiful year of rain. I'm so thankful. But what that means is you get even more weeds. Since this soil was turned up, since I removed sod, weeds are gonna be reoccurring. So that's why that's one piece of management. My other piece of management is always to cover as much of the soil or bare open area as possible with plants. The more plants, the more they can shade out weeds. So I want things to be in mass, just like the beds you see towards the back. So they're kind of fully filled in. So we're gonna talk about what we're planting. We're what, Kyan? This is my 20-year-old nephew, I should have said, right? You're 20?
No.
Oh, you're not? How old are you?
10.
Oh.
Well, 11-ish, not really, kind of.
10 going on 11. I was close. 20 almost. You're 10, 11, going on 20. His birthday is coming up really soon, so he'll be turning 11 very soon. And you help your parents in the yard, don't you?
Yeah.
What are some of the things you've done in your yard?
Pull weeds.
Pull weeds, that's a good one. We all have to do that, don't we? Have you mowed?
No.
No, he hasn't mowed yet, but you've picked things in the garden, I bet.
Yeah.
I think you had a lot of cabbage this year.
Yeah.
You're gonna have tomatoes really soon.
Probably.
So you'll be picking all those. So Kyan is an experienced gardener, honestly. He was helping me pull weeds. So why don't you guys come on in? We're gonna show you what we were doing and what we're gonna do today. So this area, as you can see, we're sitting a few months in after everything was planted. And the largest size plant that was planted in this area was a 4-inch pot, which is, I have some more of those to plant now. So if you look around, the smallest was plugs. All of the Summer Magic nepeta was a small plug, 72 cell tray size. And you can see already, bees are buzzing all over them. You can kind of just hear it if you're here in person. And what's great is they have filled in so quickly, along with Terra prairie dropseed grass. We have some different things. Obviously in the middle, we have my favorite stockies. It's the Helen von Steiner Big Ears. So what I'm really working on right now, because everything is not fully established yet, by next year and the third year, the bed is really gonna look like this bed over here that is 1 year old right now. And you can see how filled in that bed is. So what I'm doing is filling in the rest of the center of this bed. So if we kind of look around here with me, you can see that I had a couple plants I planted earlier in the spring. So the phantom variety of Joe Pyeweed, which for me does not spread, it just gets a nice bigger clump and I really like that. I also planted some anise hyssop, some Agastache, it's the Blue Fortune variety, which I really like. And so what I'm doing now is mixing in, as you notice, I try to do not perfect symmetry, but kind of varying forms of mass plantings. So some of these in the middle that I'm planting, they get much larger. So I will give them some room to really kind of get into their big clumps. And I can show you later with some more established ones I have in an older bed, how big they get. So Kyan and I want to go around and show you what plants specifically we're planting here. So I ordered all these and I can put the information below to show you where I ordered them from. I don't always order plants, but when you get later into the season like this, if you want a little bit more economical sized ones like these are only 4-inch size, it sometimes is best to order them because it's the middle of summer. You know, nurseries don't always have as full of stock of everything. So I have a few different things. So the Joe Pyeweed I like to plant, Phantom Joe Pyeweed. You know, when they come in a small pot, don't be scared of how they look. Recently, I had a message and the person said, I'm really worried. I planted something. I think they planted nepeta 3 weeks ago, they said. And it looked okay, it looked alive, but it just hadn't been growing a lot. Is that normal? It's very normal. I always think it's great when we can get gardeners in at all stages to understand when we say something is fast growing, Nepeta, most perennials are very fast growing, it still needs a season to settle in. Certain ones within a season get really big. It just all depends on the weather, the rain, the sun, but always give something time. And when you get a plant in the mail, you can tell like this one has been cut at one time. It's been nipped back so it branches out more. This one this year may take a little longer and it may not look fully established this year. That's okay. But honestly, for coming in the mail, for being wrapped up and being a little bit kind of beat up, they look great. So they have a little bit of brown spotting. That's nothing to be scared of. So we're gonna do groups of about 3 of most plants. So this is the Phantom, Joe Pyeweed. And then in front of me here, we're gonna do a couple Orangium. So that's like a thistle-like flower. And this one's called Big Blue specifically. So this one, you can see I had just watered because it needed a little bit of water, but they have kind of it looks like a prickly leaf. That's because once they're established, guess what? They get super, super prickly. So they will get these thistle-like flowers that are just so beautiful, but I put them in the middle of the bed. That way, if you're having people over or guests on the edge of a bed, they don't rub against them and feel kind of the prickliness. The third one we're gonna do, Kyan's gonna pick up for me. This is a Agastache. So look how great this plant is. So what's great about this, it has, since it's the Blue Fortune variety, if you rub the leaf and smell it, do you actually want to rub it and smell it? Rub it really hard between your fingers, really hard. You can just take it, yeah, even with your gloves, really hard and then smell. Do you smell that? Mm-hmm. It's like anise, which is an oil and it smells so good. And it attracts pollinators. And I just think it's fun to have different things like that. And I really like the form it takes and it gets nice and tall. So we're gonna get down in here and actually start planting. I think this is a great time so I can plant with Kyan, who maybe doesn't plant as much as some of us, and kind of walk through the steps again. So when we're choosing something, I'm gonna say so this is a smaller plant. So this is a 4-inch, I'm calling it perennial size, which what that means is sometimes you can get a gallon size, sometimes you can get a really small one. But what's nice about a 4-inch size is they cost usually a little bit less, but perennials grow really fast. But if you notice, when I pull it out of the pot, and you can pull one out too, do you see how many roots are in here and how tight they are? And you can be pretty firm with it. Don't be scared to pull it out. It kind of feels like you're gonna break something. There, do you see, look how tight that is. Do you see how many roots are kind of wrapped around themselves? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's really good. That means you have a vigorous plant. But when we put it in the soil, sometimes it's hard for these roots to kind of branch out because they're so tight in here. So I always think it's good to remember that we can break these up just slightly. So do you see how I'm just kind of lightly going in with my fingers and just separating them a little bit? You can even go in if you want and take your fingers and just kind of pull on the roots. Yeah. And you notice how they kind of just start coming apart a little bit? Mm-hmm. And they just kind of, look at this. It's almost like they have a more natural kind of form to them. So I'll show everyone too. I always want you to see, you can kind of just open up the plant root a little bit. And what I always think this does, I think it helps it acclimate to the soil right here a little bit easier and quicker. And it helps soak up moisture better. Sometimes when they're so tight and those roots are wrapping around themselves, they can't soak up the moisture they need. So what we're gonna do, as you can see, I'm being very, very not perfect here, and that's okay. So we have a shovel for Kyan. Yep. But I am gonna put them in about a triangle pattern. So roughly, this is what I always like to do first. I set them up kind of where I want them. So yours, I'm gonna want here.
Right here.
And then mine, I'm gonna want here, and this one there. So what I do is I take a little bit, do you see how I'm scraping that mulch away? Yeah. So scrape it away right where that plant is. That's perfect. And if you notice, right here, that's a drip line. So I have a drip line there, but since we're digging by hand, I'm not too worried about hitting it because we can see it. If you're digging with a shovel and your foot, it can be easier to hit one if you don't look too close. I always do check for that. And then also what I'm gonna do is instead of using an auger, which sometimes I love to use an auger, when it's in a tighter space like this and I have a good mulch base, I don't wanna kick up soil everywhere. So we're just gonna use little hand trowels because we're working with 4-inch. That's what's really nice. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start digging a hole here, if you can with me. If you notice, the soil's really easy to work with. So what I always think, see how nice and quick that starts digging up, and you can just pull enough of this out that you can put a little bit of soil like right beside it if you want. And that's the perfect way to kind of just dig a nice hole. And what I always think helps is if you can go straight down like this. Yeah. Go straight down a little bit, perfect, and then just kind of rock it back. And then see, you're starting to make a hole, that's perfect. And you just wanna make one that's big enough that obviously the plant fits in. And if it's a little bit bigger, that's great. Now, I know we all know the old adage that two times the size of the root ball for the size hole. I think that's definitely a good marker. I don't think it's always essential. I think it depends on the plant. I think it depends on your soil. The worse your soil is, I think the bigger hole is important because you always want to be able to add in some type of soil amendment, maybe like compost, maybe some type of soil lightener, something to help drain, add organic matter. So what I'm doing is just digging my hole. And let's look at yours here too, because then we're gonna talk about what we can do to the soil to help it. And that is getting so good. You're gonna go home and you are gonna plant so many plants, which if I didn't say and you didn't know, Kyan is my sister's youngest. So she has 3 kids and Kyan is the youngest out of 3. And he's my only nephew. So he's my favorite nephew. I can say that. So that's a perfect hole for that too. That's perfect. So what I do when I'm doing anything is I always think, what can I do to benefit not only the plants, but also my soil and help that plant go? And so I always like to use, you know I love Espoma products and you know I love biotone. Anything I plant, anything I transplant is always gonna have some biotone. Because if you didn't know, Kyan, this helps kind of like, you know how sometimes you take a vitamin?
Yeah.
This kind of is like something that's going to be a little bit of a vitamin for the soil and for the plant, but in the long run, also just always help the soil. And that's what I want to do. So we're going to go in and we're going to take, if you want to just take a little handful, see how I'm doing that?
Yeah.
You can just go in and grab some and just sprinkle it right into the hole. And you don't have to worry about having too much or too little because it's not kind of a synthetic bad chemical. It's just a nice organic fertilizer. So then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our plant, it's beautiful, and we always start with a well-watered plant. We just set it right there in the hole. I always like to make sure that that crown or the top of the plant is no deeper than it previously was, which it isn't. So now you can take your soil and kind of just gently now put it back around it. And I kind of, if there's any big pieces, I just kind of break them up as I go. So that way, and oh, that is so good. And you know what, this is a great time to also know. So whenever we plant something, a tree, a shrub, this is what's called kind of that crown or the plant at the base. One thing that some people don't realize is if you cover up, like let's say we're gonna put the soil and kind of just, it's kind of easy to do that, isn't it? You kind of think you should do that because it stabilizes it. But that's actually really hard on the plant because it can't get the oxygen it needs.
Yeah,
so you never wanna mushroom it up onto the plant, but that's perfect. You know exactly what you're doing. We're finishing up on the third one right here. And so what I do is always try to put, if I can, that mulch back on top that I displaced. But eventually year after year, what my hope is all these plants get large enough that they're just touching each other and there's one big mass of a planting and you don't see mulch or bare soil really anywhere within this bed other than maybe right around each tree if there's a little bit to see that root flare. I'm obviously okay with that. So we're finishing this one up and the important thing is to of course always water it. You guys know that. I don't need to show you how to water. But watering it well once it's in the hole is important because it gets out any of those excess air bubbles. Also make sure those roots are saturated so they get acclimated into the spot. So we're moving down on the line kind of, and yes, before you get mad, Kyan is without shoes, just like I would have been if I was a kid. If we were with any power tool, if we were with big shovels, we wouldn't be doing this. But we're just using little hand trowels, and I get it. I would have gone barefoot a lot too. Kip is here and has decided he would like to help. But Kip, I think you're gonna be in the shot, so you're gonna go right over there. Go get a drink, drink. So what we're gonna do down here is the Orangium. Big Blue is one of my favorite varieties because it gets nice and tall. It gets very sturdy branching, so the flowers are really good, especially if you notice I'm putting it in the middle of a bed. So it's gonna have plantings on all sides that help it. Sometimes in the wind, until it's established, it can be a little wonky if it gets really tall shoots of flowers. So having things around it's really helpful. Okay, we're laying them out and you can see, again, not perfect here. I'm just laying them out and kind of roughly making a spot for each. And I'm giving them kind of roughly the size requirements they need, but remember, you don't always have to follow the size. It kind of depends how you want a plant to grow into each other. So if a plant, say, gets 12 to 18 inches wide, if you want them to overlap, go closer to that 12 or a little less because then they'll grow into each other. If you want them to be very separated, which I used to be like that, but now I want all my plants to touch. But if you want them to be separated, you want to extend that in-between length depending on their sizing. So what we're gonna do is, I think that's a good spot. I just wanna make sure. I did recently put in a speaker wire out here. I added speakers and I don't want to hit that because it's a low gauge wire and I didn't bury it deep, but I don't think, yeah, no, you're good there. You can dig kind of a little hole there. That should be good. And then I'm going to dig one over here. So what we're doing is always groupings of 3 just because the middle of this tree line doesn't have a lot of space. And as these do grow kind of more into their mature size, I don't need too many plants. And all these plants I'm choosing are ones that usually, kind of not only get a bigger mound, but they can sometimes start new plants. Like the Orangium here I have quite a bit over at my mom's house in the bed her and I put in together. And it actually does really well at kind of starting some new plants. I do notice with Eryngium, the one thing, it kind of has a taproot. So once they get started, unless they're really young, they don't like to be moved. I do have everything here. We're finishing up on the third one right here. I have everything here on drip line, but the thing is, I turn it off unless, because all these things, once they're established, they're not going to need drip line. They're all drought tolerant. They're all really good with the summers we have. I have drip line here just to help me in the beginning, not have all the manual time of watering them. And then I know once that they're going, they're going to be fine for life and they do really well. So the one thing I want to do is be a little cautious here about putting too much mulch around them on some of them when they get started, because they do like that room a little bit as they grow. If you pile up mulch just like the soil, it can be too tight and not allow for enough moisture to get through to each plant. So what we're gonna do is make sure that all this is kind of put back around them. We're gonna finish up all the plants we have. You've seen now a mixture of quite a few of them, and we'll finish with the Igstaki. So we got all the plants, but this one last one planted. So this is the Anise hyssop, or the Igstaki Blue Fortune. Some people say Igastache, some people say Igstaki. You know what? It doesn't matter quite how you pronounce it, as long as you know if you love the plant or not. So if you notice, and I know you're thinking, okay, all these names, I don't know what this plant is. We're gonna go look then at a couple of these that are more grown so you can see them. I don't have any of their Eryngium here yet, so I don't have that one at my house to show you established. But what I really like about some of these, like Kyan just separated their roots for me again, which is great work. What I like about a lot of these, they do really well, and you can put the soil now kind of if you want to, some of the soil. We start with the soil, remember? I was telling Kyan, it's always important to remember when we were separating the mulch, we kind of spread it and then plant the plant, to put the soil itself back around first before the mulch. That way, you don't get them mixed up, hoping maybe to get less weeds. You're still gonna get some weeds, but it just kind of, to me, makes it a little bit better. What I love about a lot of these plants is I've learned to love them because I've started to understand how they work best in my garden. Because the important thing to know is, you know, I'm a zone 5B. You might be a zone 5B in a completely different state, different area. And that means it's gonna be different for you. You may not like all these plants. Some of them may spread worse for you. For me, actually, all the ones I pick, while they do naturalize, they don't spread too quickly, so I don't find them aggressive. Some people find some of these plants aggressive, but that's the beauty about gardening. It can be a little bit different for each of us. It's never exactly the same. You are such good help. We're gonna go show you a few of the plants that are more established so you can see what these look like once they start growing. So we're gonna take a walk down the path. So this path has so far been in 3 stages over 3 different years that I've done plantings. So I'm gonna take you down to some things that were planted last year and some the year before, only because that's when I have the different ones. But actually on the way, maybe I'll show you. I planted some Joe Pye weed early this year, and then I planted some last year. Let me show you the two and how they look different. So as we're walking down the path, right here, these 5 or 6 Joe Pye weed, that's how they look after a few months of growth this year. So you saw the ones I just put in. But these are ones now that are getting a little bit more established. They've been through a lot of the beautiful rains. They've been through some great summer heat. So they're really starting to show signs, and they're kind of blooming a little early, but honestly, they're about the same as my other ones. So if we go on down a little further, we're gonna see some that were planted last year, and you're gonna notice such a big difference, because the ones that were planted last year, do you see them peeking out behind the Carl Forster grass? So if we go back here, they kind of flank both sides of this pathway, and you see, here's a beautiful Joe Pye weed, same variety, phantom variety, and here's one. So if you notice, maybe this one is one you can see a little bit better all over. They're now probably their established height, which is right around 3-4 foot. I'm gonna guess that their tallest, these are about 4 foot. They could get a little taller than that, obviously. But you can see, since this one doesn't have too much around it yet, it's able to really branch out like it wants to. So right now it's probably about 3 foot wide, and it looks so beautiful, and it really just has a full look. So this is 2 plants, by the way, together. So you can kind of see 2 clumps of it. But this variety, the Phantom, doesn't get quite as tall as the older varieties, and it doesn't spread for me really hardly at all. So that's what I really love about it. But you can see a big mass of it here too. This is 3 plants in total, I believe. And they just have such great blooms. What I like is they bloom late in the season. But if we kind of go on down now this path, I want to show you the Igstaki. So it peaks out at a couple different spots. So this is now going into its 3rd year. So you can see clumps of it with the purple flower. They bloom right now, kind of mid-summer, and you can see clumps of it all over. What I have noticed is there's been some dieback on a couple of the plants going into their 3rd year, and I really think it's on ones that maybe stay too wet. You know, a lot of these things are drought tolerant, meaning they don't really want to stay too wet. So if they do, it can be hard on them. But if you notice already, there are, look at this big bumble. This big bumblebee is just, pollinators love this plant. It smells so good and it blooms at such a great time. So I try to have different timing of blooms. You can see the Rudbeckia is blooming now and it looks really good against the purple Agastache. So if we come down here, you kind of see it in 2 forms. You see it here on this side. You see it kind of tucked back behind everything on this side. And that's what I really like, is finding different ways you can use. Oh, there's that, there the bumblebee went. Do you see it kind of just going all around? It's so happy. And that's what's great, is having these things isn't only good for us and for our visual, for our texture in the garden, it's great for the pollinators. Okay, friends, I just bent down and got some more weeds. This is what Kai and I are going to be doing after this. 1 week I was gone, and within that I became a weed factory. You know, when you keep things up, like look at this one. This one is the size of, you would think I never weeded, and honestly, I had everything really weeded before I left a week ago, and here we are. But you know, when you have rains, when you have summer, this is kind of, to me, I redid a few of the plantings in this more established side. I decided to switch up a couple plants. And anytime you start exposing more area again, you're gonna have more weeds. So you said you've weeded before. So I think we might do a little bit more weeding here. But I'm really glad you joined us. Did you learn anything?
Yeah.
Did you? Well, that's good. Kind of feels like he learned something, so I hope maybe some of you did too. You know, the whole point of doing this is to hopefully show us that each garden is different, no matter where you live, no matter what zone you're in, or some of us are in the same zones, but we're still gonna have very different gardening lives, and that's the best part, to learn from each other. Hopefully you can learn something, be inspired. I wanna know what you're gardening right now. I wanna know what you're putting in. You can see I'm still gardening all throughout the season, and I hope you are too. Have a good day, friends.